At this bit here, hopefully I'm aiming the camera in the right place. This camera doesn't have a screen. It cost me £6 on eBay. Free delivery. So, it's the size of a pregnant USB drive, basically. Not very big at all. I think I'm getting better at aiming it, but, well, yes, the videos speak for themselves. The underseal is definitely gone off of here. It's had a chip sometime. It's up there, but this is thick steel. It's really solid. That's actually 2 plates. There's a plate on this side. You can see my finger. This plate is plated over this back plate, and this ridge is a fold in this other plate. Very strong. It'll outlast the van. That's why it's that design. Right, I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to get my 11mm spanner. In fact, I'll leave tension. This has no tension on it yet. So the tension on this bolt probably won't help. Because it's not under compression. Sometimes I take bolts off while on the top of struts. In my car, I've got a bolt this direction at the bottom of the shock absorber, which in my car has the spring attached. It's all one unit, called a strut, like a McPherson strut technically. And the top has a pin that comes through into the boot, and I can undo it. I usually undo them while the car's still on the ground before I jack it up, because the pressure keeps everything in place and helps to stop things turning. And the same with the front on mine. It's the same kind of assembly, a wee bit beefier because it's got carry the engine as well. But more noticeably on the front, if the car's off the ground, it's much more of a struggle to hold the central pin, which is able to turn. Rather like, I think this bottom bit will be able to turn. I'll need to grip it with something in order to stop it just spinning when I'm trying to undo the bolt. If the bolt's loose enough, I'll be able to hold it without damaging it. Potentially put pump pliers on it or something, pump wrench, hold it. Doesn't look terribly rusty, but shocks don't actually have to function as long as they're not leaking fluid. Passes its input. Shockingly, you pardon the pun. If they're leaking fluid and obviously broken, or actually broken, it will fail MOT. If they just look like this, they don't have to work. The car can bounce about all over the place. Yes, not very good for road safety, in my opinion. But it's not an MOT fail. Or it wasn't the last time I checked. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor afterwards. Couldn't believe it. It's one of these obvious. Yeah. I'm not a perfectionist by any means. But I like to have shocks working in my car. I like to know that it's going to go round the corner. predictable fashion. When shocks aren't working, cars become very unpredictable. I haven't pushed the experiment to see just how unpredictable. I tend to just get a new, or go to the scrappies. You can get cheap enough shockies online nowadays. I bought gas-filled shocks for the front of my Volkswagen Golf, Mark III Golf. Trusty workhorse, 56 horsepower, straight diesel, 1900. 276,000 on the clock. Counting. Was it 267? It'll do those diesels do 300,000 easy. They're only 56 horsepower, not very powerful. Apparently, it's in the top 10 lowest powered diesels. But they go on forever. 300,000 plus. We'll see how long I drive it for. Anyway, let's get this out of the way to get on to mine. Needing some welding for its MOT this year. And some, look at the brakes too. So, now I'm going to switch it off. Come back. So I've made some progress with it. Alright, I'm glad I switched you off. Struggled with the top bolt again, not happening, so we took the bottom one out. I just put a tiny wee drop load on the jack. Barely enough. Just got it supporting. Hopefully you can see under there. Under a holly bush here. The ground's prickly. It's just supporting. Next step, we're going to let the jack down very slightly. We put a couple of turns in that tensioner, the spring tensioner. So you have to put you down. Right. So the shock absorber there is now disconnected. Oh, there goes the rubber. That's as far down and won't blow. And there's the rubber from the top to the bottom. It's from the bottom. You'll not see a lot. Sorry, blowing in your ear there. Right. Hopefully, I need to put you down a minute. I don't know. These springs are not light. There we go. Now, oh yes. And the good news, I just looked at my axle stand there. It's on the ground. And I did this on the other side. Mind you, yep, the weight's off the jack just now. When I jacked it back in to reinstall it, yep, these guys have seen better days. I might need to check the position of the spring on the other side. Not sure if it's in the right position. I'm noticing a dent in here. Because the end of the coil, this is the good end of the spring. The end of the coil would sit in this dent. Not sure if it's the coil that's made the dent. It does look kind of random. is the broken bit of this spring. You can see that. Let's see. It goes thick. And it's broken about here. So only that much is broken off. But it's beginning of an end. Springs only last so long. So, new spring. Yes. I think I should compress that. This pin on the top is much higher. We get down and see. There's not a dent. I couldn't see one on the other side. There is a slight dent just there. Just touched this drum. It's covered in brake fluid. Horrible stuff. I don't know if you can see the chips. Yes. 2 chips in the powder coating there. There's more. It's just been kicking around the warehouse, I think. So it's not actually rusty yet. It won't take long under there though. As far as I'm aware, these things don't have a top and a bottom. They're the same both ends. Some springs are different. They have a top end and a bottom end. You have to get them right. But these look identical. There's no pigtail. I call it pigtail. Yeah. Curls and pigtail. It doesn't really start getting thick until about 2 turns. On the second turn it really starts getting thick. Pretty much the same here. And by the turn and a half pretty much it's up to full thickness. Pretty much the same here. It's simply getting squashed in there. Just purely from mounting perspective. If the mounting is designed, you can see that's the spring located at the top. If I turn it round, yes, that's as high as I can get it. I'll be able to squash that a wee bit with my hands. Now, I managed to kick that on. It's still got 2 turns to go. I'll show you where it's connecting. Just bumping. You can see the rust there. That's where it's bumping. It has to raise that much. And with all my weight on this, it barely compresses. They're very, very strong springs. 2 tons in the back of this van with these springs on it. That's what they're rated at. I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to take this off here, put it on there, and then we'll get that spring back in. This is the bolt from the bottom of here. I did have to grip it. I wrapped, it's a bit of tractor tyre inner tube. Very useful stuff. You can see where I gripped it, where it's been chewed slightly by my pump pliers, pump wrench. I had to wedge the pump wrench in just to get a wee bit extra support from the seam on the you would call it a swinging arm really. I would call it a swinging arm. Suspension arm. So that it was, the swinging arm was stopping it, the suspension arm was stopping the pliers from turning. And all I had to do was grip to hold it. I wasn't having to stop it from twisting. also helping dig in a wee bit. I'm really glad it came off. I'm going to grease that before I put it back on. It's a very fine thread. Shallow pitch. It pitches a thread. These are designed for small cars, really. I swear that's bending in the middle, but I don't think it is. You can see the thickness of those threads. The spiral, you don't need to turn very much to make these move a lot. It makes it very hard work to compress everything. It compresses quickly, but yes, you have to work very hard to put any compression on. It's not designed. I have another set of spring compressors. They're slightly too long to fit in here. Slightly different design. They have a much steeper pitched thread. Not quite as small as that. It's a bit like the difference between the Swiss roads that zigzag up the side of the hill. They zigzag a lot. This guy doesn't zigzag very much. It just goes straight up. Very much. Right, switching you off. I think there's not much to see here. I'm just going to squash this a wee bit. Oh, it needs half an inch. Pretty much. That'll go on. Jacket. At this bit here, hopefully I'm aiming the camera in the right place. This camera doesn't have a screen. It cost me £6 on eBay. Free delivery. So, it's the size of a pregnant USB drive, basically. Not very big at all. I think I'm getting better at aiming it, but well, yes, the videos speak for themselves. The underseal is definitely gone off of here. It's had a chip sometime. It's up there, but this is thick steel. It's really solid. That's actually 2 plates. There's a plate on this side. You can see my finger. This plate is plated over this back plate, and this ridge is a fold in this other plate. Very strong. It'll outlast the van. That's why it's that design. Right, I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to get my 11mm spanner. In fact, I'll leave tension. This has no tension on it yet. So the tension on this bolt probably won't help. Because it's not under compression. Sometimes I take bolts off while on the top of struts. In my car, I've got a bolt this direction at the bottom of the shock absorber, which in my car has the spring attached. It's all one unit, called a strut, like a McPherson strut technically. And the top has a pin that comes through into the boot, and I can undo it. I usually undo them while the car's still on the ground before I jack it up, because the pressure keeps everything in place and helps to stop things turning. And the same with the front on mine. It's the same kind of assembly, a wee bit beefier because it's got carry the engine as well. But more noticeably on the front, if the car's off the ground, it's much more of a struggle to hold the centre pin, which is able to turn, rather like, I think this bottom bit will be able to turn. I'll need to grip it with something in order to stop it just spinning when I'm trying to undo the bolt. If the bolt's loose enough, I'll be able to hold it without damaging it. Potentially put pump pliers on it or something, pump wrench, hold it. Doesn't look terribly rusty, but shocks don't actually have to function as long as they're not leaking fluid. Passes its empty. Shockingly, you pardon pun. If they're leaking fluid and obviously broken, or actually broken, it will fail MOT. If they just look like this, they don't have to work. The car can bounce about all over the place. Yes, not very good for road safety, in my opinion. But it's not an MOT fail. Or it wasn't the last time I checked. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor afterwards. Couldn't believe it. It's one of these obvious. Yeah. I'm not a perfectionist by any means. But I like to have shocks working in the car. I like to know that it's going to go round the corner in a predictable fashion. When shocks aren't working, cars become very unpredictable. I haven't pushed the experiment to see just how unpredictable. I tend to just get a new, or go to the scrappies. You can get cheap enough shockies online nowadays. I bought gas-filled shocks for the front of my Volkswagen Golf, Mark III Golf. Trusty workhorse, 56 horsepower, straight diesel, 1900. 276,000 on the clock. Counting. Was it 267? It'll do those diesels do 300,000 easy. They're only 56 horsepower, not very powerful. Apparently, it's in the top 10 lowest powered diesels. But they go on forever. 300,000 plus. We'll see how long I drive it for. Anyway, let's get this out of the way to get on to mine. Needing some welding for its MOT this year. And some, I need to look at the brakes too. So, now I'm going to switch off. Come back. So I've made some progress with it.